I've had the blessing of working with some of the highest performers to ever walk the face of the earth. Hall of Famers, Super Bowl champions, NCAA champions. You see rings behind me. Like, it's been a blessing. High performers in the business world. The highest performers are not seduced by success. When they have success, they have this burning desire, this fire to go wake up and do it again the next day. Not to go make the money or to win, to repeat the work that caused them to have that feeling of victory.
What's my why? To win. What's my purpose? To win. As you manifest bullshit into the universe in hopes that it gives back to you abundantly, I want you to picture the back of my ass crossing the finish line before you. Let's discuss it at a seminar. My sarcasm runs rampant, and I know I probably just pissed some people off. Capitalism and competitiveness, though, can coexist along with manifestation, karma, and positive output. However, if I was forced to ever pick a side, let me be clear where I stand. I will work my ass off to get what I want. I will respect people on the way there and not step on any toes that don't deserve to be stepped on. Those that are considerably weaker than me, that try to take me on, will be met with mercy. Those that deliver a realistic threat, though, they'll be destroyed. This is my mindset. I am not manifesting a desired outcome externally. It's me and you. We got the problem. There is only one exception. If you stoop to a level that is so far beneath me and my energy, I will dismiss it completely in hopes that the universe does take care of you on the back end. But if it doesn't, it doesn't. You are a pain in my ass, and that's your only relevance. Congratulations. I'm up here. You can stay down there by yourself with your bullshit. You aren't ever getting a seat at this table. I have no idea where my guest today stands on what I just said. This is where I stand. However, I have had no formal coaching and I'm not well read on the subject of mental conditioning. I can tell you what I have done, though. I have been in competitive environments through athletics and the natures of the industries that I work in. I have developed a personal credo as part of the process and more or less just a way that I operate. I do not ever want to be perceived as a scumbag or a pushover, meaning nobody will ever walk around saying, John cheated me. John cheated to get that account. He lied to get whatever done. Nah, no one's going to say that shit about me. They also won't be saying, John folded like a pussy bitch because we got our CEO involved and he backed down. Nope. No one's going to call me a pushover. Nobody's going to call me a scumbag. If they do, they're lying or they just don't know me very well. Ben Newman is considered one of the top mental toughness experts. He has published several books on professional success and how to drive positive life changes. His most recent release is Uncommon Leadership. As a speaker and performance coach, he connects purpose and drives accountability for elite companies around the globe. He can be found working with top 500 companies in boardrooms and stages across the world and with some of the world's elite sports teams. You can also find him speaking and giving back to the military. Welcome to 2000% Raise, Ben Newman.
John Cerasani. You know, we needed to add to that bio that you and I, Meltzer friends, Meltzer panelists, right, on the 2-minute drill. I mean, you left it out of the bio. I don't know what you're doing.
That's right. That's where me and Ben, actually correction already, Ben. I like to make a habit of correcting my guests and making them feel uncomfortable. It was actually office hours, not 2 minutes.
No. I'm saying in person was when we did it in studio. You interviewed me on office hours, but
Yep.
Oh, no, you're right. No, you are right. I stand corrected. I eat it. You are correct. It was office hours. 2-minute. Yes, you are correct.
As I was debating whether or not I correct you for a second time in the first 2 minutes of the podcast.
Hey, if anybody can tell, we're going to have some fun today.
Yes, we are. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. You know, we really do have a treat here, guys. You know, I try to bring on different people in the business community and different entrepreneurs. And we've had some celebrities on here as well that have talked about their business journeys. It's seldom do we get people that I consider thought leaders. You know, we've had a couple that maybe fit that mold. But Ben, I think what he's doing and really what he's accomplished has been, quite the treat for us today. So Ben, maybe way to start out there. I have a few questions, very, very loosely, just some things I wanted to ask you. I really wanted to make this more conversational, man. Why don't you just tell a little bit about everybody what it is you do?
Well, so I'm a performance coach on the mental conditioning side in the world of business and in sports. And I've been doing this for 17 years. And so one of the things I'd like to do today, and I think Cerasani just opened the door wide open for it.
Yep.
I want to repeat 17 years. I didn't just change my bio on Instagram last night to author, speaker, and mental conditioning coach. I'm not new to the game. I've been doing this a long time. And one of the things, and I think it's going to come out in our conversation, and I know people are probably like, oh gosh, these guys are going to give it to us. But you know what? Sometimes in life, you have to have aggressive patience. And even though, John can share highlights, and it's probably when we got together, him playing football at Notre Dame for Lou Holtz, then going to play at Northwestern, like these guys know what elite performance is. These guys know what it means to bang on a football field. These guys know what it means to attack. And so when we were able to share some of the things that I've done, I think it was like, okay, like this guy's actually done it. But John, you and I know, because we talked about it, it took a long time to get to this point. So through this conversation, I just want to preface, we might make some people listening feel very uncomfortable today. But you know what? I felt very uncomfortable when I first got started. And I still have mentors and coaches who challenge me who still make me uncomfortable. Yeah. So if you're uncomfortable, but you're willing to attack, I think we may have some fun today.
Today's episode is brought to you in part by Glencrest Global. Glencrest Global is a Chicago and Los Angeles-based venture capital firm that is involved in interesting companies with interesting founders. To see some of Glencrest Global's investments, visit glencrestglobal.com.
There is a movie, one of my favorite movies, a movie called Little Miss Sunshine. Have you ever seen that movie, Ben?
Hilarious.
Oh, yeah. So one of the subplots of that movie is that the dad is trying to sell this like motivational coaching program. But he's kind of just like a broke-ass dude that never did anything. And he's out there selling like this 12-step program on how to be successful, but he's not successful himself. And it's something that just I always kind of laugh about, man. And I got to tell you, Ben, that's one of the reasons I'm releasing this entrepreneurship like curriculum online. I've gotten reached out to by people because they're like, dude, you got 30-year-olds that have never done this shit. Like, just even if you don't want to do it, you're going to help people because you actually have something to offer them. And Ben, your background and your resume, man, I mean, shit. First of all, why don't we start there? What did you think of my monologue, Ben? That the internet buzzwords right now are the manifestation of the universe, giving back abundantly. First of all, did I offend you or did I crack you up on that?
No, you made me think of so many different individuals that I've been blessed to learn from on my journey. One of which is Hall of Famer Aeneas Williams, who's become a dear friend of mine, one of the greatest cornerbacks to ever play the game. And I remember Aeneas and I were sharing the stage at an event, and he goes and he stands all the way on the edge of the event, and he goes, look, because now he's a pastor. He's actually done more off the football field than he did on. So he's like, look, I want everybody to understand something. In life, you cannot just wake up and pray and think that everything is going to work out for you. You can't just say, dear God, like I want to be a Hall of Famer. Dear God, give me a body like this to play football. You actually have to do the work. And I think that's the missing piece, John. Do I believe in affirmations? Do I believe in legacy statements and painting a vision? Absolutely, I believe in those things because they work. But they only work if you have a willingness to do the work, not 3 days this week or maybe one good day this week. Like if you decide to do it every day and to attack what your beliefs are, then maybe you have an opportunity of you achieving those things. And that's what Aeneas Williams was saying. And that's a pastor saying, you can't just look up and say, dear God, give me this body and let me play football. At some point in time, you have to say, Positive self-talk only goes so far. It's the neutral thinking that I will perform regardless of the good or the bad every day.
Got it. And are you seeing that piece right there when you do your coaching, Ben? Is that the hump? Like, are people entering relationships with you? I don't know what I'm doing wrong, man. I'm already pumping myself up. I'm already listening to the right music when I wake up in the morning, have positive self-talk. And then you're like, well, dickhead, you actually got to go to the gym. Hey, you actually got to make those prospect calls. Like, when do you get to work? 9:05 a.m. when all your freaking more successful peers are getting in at 7 a.m. Hey, maybe that should tell you something. I mean, are these real conversations?
Typically what happens, and I'm one of those individuals, like, I'm not going to hold back. I want to ask you the tough question. So we could ask every single one of your listeners right now. We could say, what is the single most important daily discipline for you to know that, like, you're giving it your best every day? Not like, what's the best statement you can say to fire yourself up? Like, what is the single most important daily discipline? I don't care if somebody's in the mortgage business, financial services, if they're in the mining industry. I don't care what the industry is. What is the single most important daily discipline? When I do that every day, I know stacking days with that discipline, the byproduct is winning at high levels. We all know what it is. We could say, I have to do this. It's 20, I call them points of contact when I do sales training. Text message, email, phone call. It's a point of contact to the world. I'm open for business. Okay? So I could say, how many times? It's 20 a day. Ben, if I do that 20 a day. John, if I do that 20 a day, I know that I will win. And then, John, it's simple. Yep. Then we ask him the question, okay, so answer this for me. And you know what? I don't even need to know the answer. You keep the answer for yourself. Over the last 30 days, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate yourself on you doing those 20 POCs every single day? And that's where we have to start. Because most people, John, are bullshitting themselves. Because most people say, man, I'm showing up every day. I'm putting in the work. It's easy to just say it. But when I say, what's the discipline and how have you, nobody's asked me that. I've actually been an 8 over the last 30 days. Well, you know what? If you show up 40% of the time, you're just like everybody else who says that they want to be successful. But until we have a conversation with their action, we realize they really don't want it. So you can't tell me how bad you want it, but then show me that you only do the work 40% of the time. Mm-hmm. You didn't get recruited by Lou Holtz to go play football at Notre Dame because you showed up 40% of the time.
Right.
That doesn't happen.
Yeah. And what's funny, man, along the way, and I don't know exactly in my life when that part was, or just when it is in general, where you don't really have anyone holding you accountable anymore. You got to do this shit yourself. And, Ben, you working with a 30-year-old, 40-year-old, 50-year-old, 60-year-old, whoever the heck you're working with, they probably have that bulb that goes off. Well, no one's really held me accountable. You're successful and you got a good job in your 20s. Your parents are proud of you. They're not leaning over your shoulders anymore. Okay, well, your new boss, I'll never forget it, man. My first job out of college, I see people leaving the office at 4:59 p.m. on, Fridays, and I'm still there at 5:30 and working my ass off. And I remember asking the manager of the office, he was a hard worker like me, and I'd say, why do you put up with this shit? You get on these guys, their sales are down. They got to stay till 7 p.m. tonight. And it's like, they'll quit. And this is going back in frickin' the year 2000, man. And this is way before the frickin' snowflakey kind of propaganda going on. You know what I mean? And even, that's back then. You couldn't play hardball with employees. So at what point in your life do you lose that piece? And I gotta say, if you don't play athletics, it probably stops sometime right after high school. And that's a lot to put on your shoulders,
So you bring up a really interesting point. Athletics helps you recognize the importance of coaching, but it also helps you create standards in your life. I'd be willing to bet that the reason why you exited the businesses that you've exited, and you've been, forget your football career, which was fantastic, but the things you've been able to do professionally were probably not because you always showed up late to meetings, not because you told people you would do things, but you had no process and follow through. It's like, what happens if you show up late to a meeting in college? Like, you're not showing up late. What happens when you follow through with a process and then do a little bit extra. So most people realize if that worked in college, I'm just going to transfer that here. That's why I always look and I say individuals that have been in the military, they're former athletes. I don't care if it's a world-renowned piano player. That person understands discipline.
Yep.
And so that piano player had a great coach. And then you're right. People move away from coaching, or if they were never exposed to it, when we say things like, what are your standards? They're like, standards? What are you talking about? Like, why do you talk that way? And they don't realize that without accountability, without standards, without some purpose and direction and that self-accountability you mentioned, you're only going to reach a certain level of success, and you'll probably never realize how great you can be.
You know, it's funny, man. You're making me realize too that I've been doing this new thing for myself lately. Really, probably like the last 6 to 12 months, and it's kind of a weird analogy, but everyone's familiar with the song "Cats in the Cradle," right? It's about a kid and his dad, and the dad passes, but it's like the whole time when they're both there, we're gonna do it. We'll get to it. You know, it'll be a good time when we get to it. And I analogize that to like, okay, I know what needs to be done to be successful. I know what needs to be executed. When the F am I going to do it? Whether it's you're going to lose 20 pounds, whether it's you're going to build a company and sell it. Dude, before you know it, poof, life passed you by, bro. You got to do this shit, man. You got to do this shit. And Ben, you brought up my exit there. And that's exactly where I'm at, man. I got very fortunate by having an exit, and I've been able to kind of like rest on my laurels here the past few years, but it's like, shit, I got a lot of life in front of me. You know what, man? Fuck this. I'm going to start a podcast. You know what? Fuck this. I'm going to start being opinionated and show my shit out on fucking social media. I'm going to, you know what? I always wanted to write a second book. I'm going to do that. And it's about getting your ass and do it. Nothing I'm doing right now weren't ideas that I didn't have 10 years ago. It's just a matter of saying, let's freaking go. What are you waiting for? You know?
See, I think there's so much that you can do, John. I know from you interviewing me one time, and then I can't believe you screwed it up earlier saying 2-minute drill, but us being on office hours together. Us being on office hours together. But, you know, earlier you mentioned that, you know, coaching and these things of that nature are things that you could do. Like, you could be doing that.
Yeah.
See, the reality is it's just slowing down to paint it with your voice.
Okay.
Right? Because you have a voice that needs to be heard. Just look at the 2,000% raise, right? That's an empowering statement to say, when you grab a hold of your life and determine that you can do it bigger and better with yourself and with the values and the standards you already know, look what you can do in your life. That's been your purpose behind this. So I know you said you don't have coaches anymore. Shit, the way you called me out at the beginning, I may say, hey, brother, like, I need to be your coach now. But the reality is I tease. But I think you should do that, because I bet if you paneled your audience right now and people who are listening, I want you to DM John, blow him up. Like, there should be something that you're doing to help people know that, like, not only did you do it, and I know that's part of all of the interviews, but there's systems and standards that you know that you've used that need to be taught, because there's too many people living in fear. I mean, John, I'm just so tired of it. You guys can see this vein starts popping out of my neck. I'm not yelling at anybody. It's my passion.
Right.
But you know, what happens is people get so scared, and then the media and politics and all this, there's nobody saying like, look, you've already displayed during periods of time in your life you could be successful. So stop listening to the self-talk. And to your point, stop telling me that you're going to lose 20 pounds today.
Right.
What are we going to do today? You're going to eat. Don't eat the chocolate cake. Instead of French fries, have the salad. I'm fine. Eat the damn cheeseburger, but at least eliminate the fries. Let's start eliminating things from your diet to change how you show up and go break a sweat today. People just don't want to take the action, but they have to know they have it in them.
My problem's the booze, man. My problem's the booze. I'll go a week doing the damn no carbs, lose all this damn weight, and then anyone go into ketosis and then have a bourbon, and when you're deep into ketosis, it's very difficult to avoid a burrito the next day. Let me just tell you that. You know, Ben, you mentioned something else there too. You know, I appreciate your categorization or characterization of 2,000% raise, and that's absolutely correct. And I feel like my message is different in the sense of, hey man, I built an insurance company that anyone could have done. I left a job that anyone could have had. I learned things at that job. just saw the light, took the risk, and tried to do it on my own and put myself on top of the org chart. And that's what 2000% Raise is all about. And I didn't invent Facebook. I didn't come up with some new technology. My grandparents don't own aren't some generational wealth family, and really that is kind of what I try to preach. And I just look back, because you just touched on it there. You stay in an environment, and over time, you can't see outside of that environment, man. You can't see, and life circumstances change, and you become comfortable. And it's even people that maybe should have been in sales jobs for their first professional job, and they took a job in a service sector for, account management or something non-sales. Over time, all that person's worried about is, how much PTO that they get, or hopefully their boss's boss recognizes them at the next meeting so they could, get some freaking, accolade or something like that. Where the salespeople are, I'm not trying to work less. I'm not worried about my vacation days. I'm trying to work more because I want more money. And it breaks my heart when I see people that should have been in sales because they are motivated by hard work and they are motivated by money, that they're 35 years old and they just didn't take that career path. And that person has the hardest time making the pivot, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's very hard for those individuals to do that. And one of the things I always encourage people to do is to connect to what I call the burn. There's so many coaches and speakers, they talk about why, they talk about purpose, which those things are very important. But to your point earlier, if you just say, oh, I've got a great purpose statement, I've got a great why, but we don't understand the fire inside of us that's actually going to cause us to do the work, then you're never really going to understand the level of potential, or the level of success that you can have by tapping into that potential every single day. So I always encourage people, you got to stay connected to your burn. That burn for me, I lost my mother 11 days before my 8th birthday. Parents were divorced when I was 6 months old, never knew them together. And my mother came to the dinner table with an IV stand every day with 24-hour nursing care down the hall to ask me how my day was at school. So when my mother passed away, you think I have bad days? I may have days that frustrate me. I may have days that piss me off, but I will not have a bad day because my mom passed away at 38. I'm 44, and I've been given 6 extra days that my mother never got, one day at a time. So that's a burn and a fire that I don't care, John, you turn me down for business. Oh, we don't want to bring you in to speak. You're not our guy. Yeah. You're not my coach. Yeah. Fine. I'll go call somebody else, but I'm not going to allow that to hold me back because there's something more significant in me. Now, for individuals that have not faced that adversity and challenge, grab your future and bring it to today. It's one of my favorite questions. A lot of people say, oh, I don't know what I see, so how am I going to work hard when I can't? Everybody knows what they want. And so if it is something materialistic, I always encourage people to go deeper. Let it be something materialistic, but find something that not just motivates you, causes you to take action. And when you think about that thing, that burn, that is what ignites your why and your purpose, that then causes you to be disciplined when you don't want to do it. So when you're sitting there on a Friday afternoon and it's 4:59 and everybody's leaving to head to the bar, you're like, you know what? I said that I was going to contact these 5 clients before the end of the day. That bourbon at the bar can wait because I'm going to do what I said I'm going to do. Otherwise, these clients are going to say, if he can't follow through with a phone call, how's he going to make sure that my shipment shows up to my dock next week on Thursday at noon like he said he would? Can't trust that guy. Can't trust that girl. And so I think at some point in time, you got to get clear. You got to understand the burn. And once again, all the way back to the beginning, you've got to get back to doing it, really the willingness to do the work, but then actually doing the work.
Yep. Yeah. You know what? I tell you what, I remember I was about 8 years into my company. So it's probably around, would that put me at 35-ish? And one day, man, I was having a great week. The money's pouring in. I have all these clients. Everything's great. It's Friday afternoon. And like I said, nothing. I already own the company. We're doing great. I decided I'm going to sit down, write a handwritten letter to 30 people, CFOs, that I've emailed over the years that have never replied to me. Okay. Now I sat there and wrote literally and nothing was generic about it. Something specific to them, specific to they were all college and university CFOs.
30. I want to highlight that. 30 of them.
Exactly. Now Now, mind you, this is not like 1982. This is like 2012-ish, okay, guys? Or 2000, I don't want to do the math, but around 2012 probably, okay? Just getting a handwritten letter in the mail from a stranger is a little on the creepy side. And I had a couple share that with me. But you know what? 3 responded. 2 of them said, hey, man, thanks. Next time we're in town, let's do lunch. 1 of them ended up becoming a client about 6 months later. And for what I did, that's a big deal. And it's a short sales process. 6 months later is good for that. So it was, you know what I mean? I always just remind myself, I sat there at 4 p.m. on a Friday at 30 hand. My hand was freaking sore. I'm like, why am I doing this shit?
This is why I was so excited to have this conversation with you, because I knew it would be real and to the point and be able to help people. And some people, this might seem a little bit in your face, but like, these are the conversations I need. These are the reminders for me that I can't be seduced by success. I can't get content. And if you really pay attention to what John just said, here's where most people fail. 30 letters, 3 respond, 1 becomes a client. Most people can't handle the 29 no's. And so just be willing to say, like, this burn is significant enough. I don't care about the no's. I understand that to get the compensation that you received for that client, the impact that you made on that client, you have to hear those no's. So if you're unwilling to play in the fire, if you live in la la land and think that you're going to be in sales and never hear the word no, you might as well not even go into sales. It's the no's that lead to the yeses. But to me, that's what I pay attention to is you were willing to just hang in there for all of those opportunities, regardless of how many no's. You weren't caught up. Why did these people not respond to me? Right? You stayed locked in on the process, and it works.
And the stickiness of clients like that, if I did the math at how many times a situation like that actually happened, it's incredible. At the time, I didn't realize I was going to one day be selling my company into private equity. And when you do that, for my industry, you got a multiple of your revenue. All right. So let's just say in that example, the client's worth like 50 grand a year. Okay, great. That's 50 grand a year. And if I'm making this minus or plus 50 grand, maybe that's not going to make that biggest difference in the world. But when I sell that company, that 50 grand in the sales process is really worth closer to about $500,000 for the sale, because that's how the purchases are made. Do that 2 or 3 or 4 times over the years. Holy shit, you know what I mean? And it's I kind of had that moment with myself, Ben, when I sold my company, just being like, okay, there's about 8 clients here that somebody without my passion had no chance of ever getting. These did not fall in my lap. You know what I mean? So I appreciate it. I never actually said that out loud, Ben. So yeah, you get the truth out of me. Are you interviewing me? Or
hey, John, we're just starting the coaching relationship today. It's just getting started.
It's gonna make me like crying. You already talked about your mom passing. So John, when did your mom pass away? Speaking of that, though, Ben, when you were 8 years old, you obviously. I mean, maybe you did, but I'm going to assume you weren't like 8 years old. Okay, mom died. I'm going to use this as my drive. And by the way, I was like 38, I think, when my mom died, or 2014. Yes, yeah. I was like 38 when my mom died, and I felt like I was too young. So, gosh, 8 years old. Holy crap, man. But, you then years later doing what you've been doing these last 17 years have found a way to channel that into what you're doing. I have to assume between age 8 and 17 years ago, there wasn't this awareness you had of it. How did this come to be?
Well, first off, I was blessed to have mentors and coaches in my life, even still to this day. And let me just highlight this real quick. I still have 2 coaches. I still read books every day. And sometimes I think when people hear these conversations, oh, well, this guy, he's just, no, I still have coaches who challenge me. And the reason why is because I had coaches and teachers in my life back then. I was a mess.
Okay.
John, I mean, you lose your mom that young, right? Parents are divorced, as I mentioned, at 6 months old. My dad moves back into the house, drug addict, alcoholic, bipolar, everything under the sun. You come home from school, dad's high on drugs or drunk on the couch every single night. So that was my life by 8 years old, right? So it's like, you don't exactly know
Yeah.
to emotionally react. And so I had anger management problems. But I would have like these counselors who would take me under their arm and really care into me and show me what it means to like love and care on somebody. And this is a true story. I think I maybe shared this in one other interview ever. So here now I'm back on the couch. You're bringing me there. And in 6th grade, I had this teacher, Mr. Warren. And I remember I was on the citizenship watch list. Like the behavior's so bad, like you're on the watch list for poor behavior. And by the end of the year, this guy, Mr. Warren, this teacher, Mr. Warren, and he's since passed. But Mr. Warren, I remember he told me, he's like, I understand. You've got pain. He sought to understand me, and he helped me that entire year. And by the end of the year, I was on the citizenship honor roll. I was recognized as one of the kids for good behavior. And so for me, I've been blessed to have these individuals who are there to help. And then that happens enough in your life. You kind of look back and you say, my goodness, like what has been the consistency here? And by the time I was probably a junior or senior in high school, I started to have recognition and awareness. Like I want to be my best every day for my mom, which is more on the earlier scale to do that at, 17 years old. But I feel like I had to grow up fast because I had faced so much. But the reason why I share that story is for somebody who's struggling, whether it's coaching, whether it's accountability from a friend. We could talk about coaching and people might think, oh my gosh, he wants us to look. I'm not even taking on new one-on-one coaching clients. That's how busy we are. We have 16 other coaches on the team. Like this is no solicitation for coaching, but I always tell people, go get a coach if you want to, but like go find an accountability partner. Go find somebody who's going to care about you. Go find somebody that you can talk to. The moment that you try to do things by yourself, it just becomes that much harder. So that brand new person who's in their 20s in a sales career, like have an accountability partner, like have that person who's going to challenge you to be your best. And then you challenge them and make it a relationship where you can help. And that's what I've had my whole life, John.
That is outstanding advice there. Where would somebody get that accountability partner, Ben? Just look to an existing peer?
I'll give you like literally the example. It's just kind of funny, we go back to, how this all started for all of us. So I went to Michigan State University. I moved to Chicago. I was a paper broker. I was literally Steve Carell out of The Office for a company called Evanston Paper Company, sold newsprint, commercial print paper by the truck. This is actually, you'll love this story being a sales guy, John. So my first day on the job, you literally show up and I walk in this tiny little paper company and Floyd Kozak, one of the owners, he walks in, right? I just graduated college and Floyd walks in, he's got this big, thick red book. He slams it on the table and he goes, pick a state. I'm like, I don't know, North Carolina. So I picked North Carolina. He opens up the book to North Carolina and he goes, let me take you to the copy machine. That's your call list. We're going to print off every page for every printer and newspaper company in North Carolina. And so I literally open this up and make copies on the copy machine. And then we had this sales team. And I remember Nate Burrows and Jason and we just held each other accountable. Like, who can get more leads today? Who can do more of this? And it just became this fun and accountability, which maybe you didn't call it coaching, but we had a willingness to say, I'm going to bust your ass. No, I'm going to bust your ass today. You won't. And it turned into we wanted the accountability. We wanted the challenge. We wanted the competitive environment. And we all got better because of it. And there's too many people, you said environment earlier, they're protecting themselves. I can't challenge this person. How are you going to grow without challenge? Have fun. Create an environment where you guys can attack together. And that's what we did. And it was a blast. You know what that coaching cost? Nothing.
Right. That's free.
It was just a willingness to challenge and to push each other. Yeah, that's coaching.
You're getting paid for it. Yeah. I love that, man. I love that. I got to tell you, man, I am so blessed that my first job out of college was in a competitive business-to-business sales type of environment where they put us through training and it was competitive. We had to be out there grinding. We went for 2 weeks of training at the home office, and we were one of the last of the dying breeds in the industry that did that. Now, nobody at the company was more than 28 years old. The sales reps, you get either you move into managers or you go work somewhere else where you're not working quite as much. But you just telling that story. I remember, so we used to get our prospects and there'd be a manila folders, we'd file, the assistants would bring it in and it'd be a pile of prospects there. And I organized my office. I had a little office, there was a window here. Well, I put the Post-it note saying prospects right here. and then I had like an arrow pointing, and that's where I wanted all the prospect files kept. Okay. Well, my manager walks in and thinks that I was saying like prospects, like out the window, like the whole world is my prospect. He like misunderstood. Why there was a post-it note there that said prospects. No, he's so proud of me. Uses me as an example. I'm the 22-year-old. Uses me as an example for all the 27 and 28-year-olds. He gets it. John gets it. And I'm just yeah, that's what I meant. But what it did though, what was elevate me rather immediately into this. Okay, this guy's for people started looking at me a little. I was for real anyway, but the misconstruing of what I was doing there put me on that level with them, and it was like, okay, you did 5, I do 6, you do 7, I do 8. That kind of environment. And
can I ask you an important question about what you're sharing?
Yeah.
What was your salary?
My salary was $30,000.
Okay, so $30,000. My first salary was a $25,000 draw, which actually means I got paid 0.
Yep.
It's so frustrating these days. Everybody wants to know, what am I going to get?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Like, what's my salary? Like, anytime, right? If you and I are going to have an opportunity to partner together, like let's say somebody came and they say, oh, I see this Las Vegas boot camp that you've got in October with Ed Milet and Tim Grover and Justin Gatlin and Dr. Lyon. Like, that event looks awesome, man. I want to come help you sell tickets to that event, right? That event is real, but I'm making up the scenario. And somebody calls me, yeah, I could help you, but I'm going to need like an $80,000 a year salary in order to become your sales guy. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I started with nothing. Every day I wake up, I'm still selling. No matter how much success our company's had, the moment I stop selling, our company is dead. And so everybody, they want something handed to them. They don't want to do the work anymore. So I encourage you, if you get an opportunity that's 100% commission, be thankful. Because if you actually have the courage to chase that opportunity, when I came home from being a paper broker, I went and worked for Northwestern Mutual. I don't say this to impress anybody. It's to impress upon the point. I set sales records in my first year for the entire country out of St. Louis, Missouri, which is why somebody offered me to speak in Chicago $500 a year after I started. I'm a 25-year-old kid. I'm like, that's a thing? You pay somebody $500 to come and speak? That was my first speaking engagement in 2006. And I share that with you to say, I had nothing. Like, I started with nothing, but I had this burning desire to want to do the work. Yeah. And it paid off. I fast forward to advisors who are getting started today and what's my salary? What's this? What's that? Like, how about you tell me what your work looks like? And people never get to understand their real potential. They don't get to understand the real fight that lies in them. I know the fight in the dog that's in me because I've been knocked down on the mat, not making commissions for weeks. And you're like, if you want to pay your bills, you better start picking up that phone, changing your tune, changing your environment, and changing you.
No, and anyone that doesn't know, that Northwestern Mutual job, especially as a 25-year-old, succeeding at that job is you got to have the heart to do that. They churn people. For every 20 that come in, probably 2 still work there a couple of years later. You got to work your ass off, don't you?
And if I could just, once again, it's not to impress anybody, it's to impress upon the point. And that career I retired so many years ago when I sold my practice from there. But I just want to share this. Not only did I get off to that fast start, I didn't get seduced by success. By the time I left, I'd sold millions of dollars of insurance. I was in the top 1% of professionals in that company. So I wasn't one of those individuals who I decided to get into coaching and speaking because like this wasn't working out for me. I enjoyed doing this work so much. I wanted to help elevate others. But my point in sharing that is the stuff I'm sharing, the stuff that John's sharing, it works. I know it's not what you want to hear. I know what you don't want to hear is I got to do the work every single day, or for John to have his exit, I had to do it every day. I had to make these things happen. But that's the way that success works. Very rarely, unless it's that silver spoon opportunity that you alluded to, that you didn't have, that I didn't have earlier, unless you've got that silver spoon opportunity, great success stories, they're created through hard work.
Yeah. And you got to recognize it too. You talk about the first jobs. I thought I was playing in the NFL up to my last game of my senior year. I ended up with a back injury and said, hey, dude, you ain't playing anymore. And we're like, I go, I'm fine. The trainer's like, hey, we're going to tell the NFL teams about this injury. We have to disclose no one's going to take you. You might get paralyzed. All right, fine. Go to Northwestern's Career Services Department. I need a freaking job in 3 months. Okay, what are we going to do? Start interviewing with everyone coming in. I get a job from Transamerica Insurance, okay? I'm based out of San Francisco. $45,000 a year. Home office job, though, no salary, just $45,000 a year home office job. I was going to learn the industry. Better job that I get was from Anderson Consulting, which is now Accenture. They were still called Anderson back then. It was about 51, 52 grand right there in Chicago. Okay. But then I interviewed with this company called Great West that nobody knew, all right? Don Mano is the regional manager freaking interviewing me. It's $30,000. Oh, shit, $30,000. Well, they're giving me this over here. I go, well, what could I realistically make in a year or two? He goes, if you're good, you could be making 100 grand by year 2. Okay, if I'm good. Yeah, if you're good. Okay. Well, guess what? If I'm good at Anderson, if I'm good at Transamerica, I ain't making 100 grand anytime freaking soon. You know what I mean? So having that awareness and being able to take that risk, knowing what motivates you is everything, brother. It's everything. So who knows, man? Maybe it comes to sports and athletics. You know, who knows? Is it the chicken or the egg? Was I good at football because I had that competitive edge? Or do I have this competitive edge in the industry because I was already used to it in football? I don't know. I can tell you right now, I have no willingness to go outside and play football with my son and his friends when I see them running around out there, a bunch of teenagers, and I'll watch guys. I don't want to break a finger. You know what I mean? But you put me in an environment that's going to come down to winning and losing on paper with sales or financially or, you know, whatever the case may be. I'm all in, brother. I'm all in.
Yeah, see, the only thing I would say is there probably were standards. You maybe didn't break it down this intentionally. There were standards that you learned from Lou Holtz. There were standards that you learned playing football at Northwestern. There were certain coaches. Maybe it was a high school coach. I mean, my 2 high school basketball coaches are still dear mentors of mine to this day. Like, I call them for issues. I call them for problems. When my dad died last year, they're sitting in my house the night of the funeral. There were very few people that came to the house intentionally. Those were 2 of the individuals, and I wanted my coaches in my home. I played for those guys 25 years ago. And so there are these life lessons that you learn, back to your point earlier, through sports, that sometimes people overlook. The real lessons that we learn, it's the hard work, it's the relationships. You don't have to do it alone. And as you alluded to earlier, why do we get to this point that people actually pull away from the things that they know work? That coaches can help you, relationships help you win, and you don't have to do it alone. So if there's anybody struggling, or I haven't been courageous enough yet, you're listening too much to your self-talk, find that accountability, find that person that believes in you, and find that person who's going to help you connect back to the work every day that it's going to take to get you out of the mindset where you're listening to that self-talk.
You know, and I want to give some props here to Ben, not that you need any further credibility, but he alluded to Lou Holtz a couple times on my end. I just want to give a little background on Ben here. He talked about Michigan State. He works closely with their athletic program. Melvin Tucker is their head coach, which one of the things Ben and I had in common, we're in these group settings, and my brother played football at Wisconsin with Melvin Tucker. I think they were a few years apart. But then Ben also did a lot of work at Alabama. And for those that don't know, Nick Saban, his rise to glory actually started at Michigan State, and then he moved out.
I was there.
Okay. So he went from Michigan State to LSU to Alabama. So you knew him back when he was at Michigan State?
No. So he was just the football coach when I was a student.
Oh, you were a student. Yeah, there you go. That was.
That
makes sense.
that you're not. Now we're really dating ourselves.
I know. I was trying to figure out, does that make us younger or older that we screwed up that reference? I don't know.
So then, just total quick side note. But the 2 head coaches at the time were Nick Saban and Tom Izzo. And here's what's wild is, this year was the first year I had the opportunity to actually do work with the basketball program. I've sent videos for years to hype the guys up for the tournament, but this was the first year I spoke to the team, spent time with the team, videos for the team. It was a great run, but this was the 25th straight year of Tom Izzo making the tournament. My freshman year at Michigan State was year 1. How crazy is that? Wow. He didn't know who the hell I was back then, but that's how long ago it was. Nick Saban was the football coach, and Tom Izzo was the first of those 25. It was pretty amazing.
So here's what's so funny. A kid at Iowa right now that's from my hometown is about to get drafted in the first round. His name's Lucas Van Ness. He plays at University of Iowa. He's from Barrington. He's friends with my daughter. I know him, know his dad really well. And I have Kirk Ferentz is the head coach there. All right. So I have footage of me catching a touchdown pass when I was at Northwestern against Iowa. It was a game-winning touchdown, and it flicks the Ferentz on the sideline. And it's like, dude, he was like, I was playing again. Now, he looks a lot different, but talk about a guy that he's like Izzo, man. He's had that job for a long freaking time.
Forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not pulling Ferris out of that job. I think he's going to keep that as long as he wants it.
For a couple of years ago, it looked like he had a couple of bad ones in a row, but now they're back on the top. Although I'll tell you right now, man, with this freaking transfer portal and nil, that's a whole nother conversation. But hopefully the Iowas of the world could keep the kids there. You know what I mean?
Can I say? Let me mention one thing with NIL, because I think this is important, because I see so much of it being in coaching. You know, working with Kansas State football coach Kleiman for 9 years, all the way back to the North Dakota State days, Michigan State, Alabama, coaches across the country. You know, for players that are coming out, should they have NIL? Absolutely. You know, should you have an opportunity to learn and to grow and to partner? But here's a couple of thoughts that I have, because I want to make sure that you student athletes, because especially with your children in athletics, here's a couple of, number one, like, it's an opportunity to learn from these business owners that may want to invest as an athlete. So I can encourage your kids to, like, hey, I want to learn from this business owner. Don't just show up and sign autographs. Like, almost look at it as an internship. What can I learn from this individual? And then the other thing is, please, this is my biggest fear, and we're starting to see this happen, is that these young men, these young women, they're receiving this money and then they stop working. They're becoming seduced by success. So you're having a player who gets X, $200,000, let's say, Cerasani, hadn't even played it down yet, right? Kind of like that. They want the salary before they even play. And then these individuals, the $200,000 causes them to get so caught up in the money that they never put forth the work that would have actually made them $50 million. So the $200,000, they don't even get a chance to play in the league. And here you're listening to Cerasani say, I had to have a neck injury. They had to pull me off the field. You'll be paralyzed. You were making no NIL money, and you worked your butt off for that opportunity. It was taken from you. Athletes, do not allow this money to keep you from doing the work. That money's being paid to you because you've showed a lot of promise, but put that money into your future and go work hard every day, and then that'll allow you to go make the real money.
You know what's funny, Ben, you saying that? So literally about a week and a half ago, I'm with Tyreek Hill. Randomly, I'm with Tyreek Hill, all right? And anyone knows Tyreek Hill is making like $30 million a year. He's in pretty good shape, right? By the way, smart dude. He's talking about this gaming platform he's going to have after he retires. I'm like, bro, you don't need to do shit after you retire. You're making $30 million. He's like, yeah, but I'm going to be making $1 billion. Watch. He has this whole platform he's putting together. But that's beside the point. We get into this whole conversation about some kid coming out of high school just got paid $4.5 million. And Tyreek said it. He goes, that kid ain't going to be good because of that $4.5 million. That's too much money to be given an 18-year-old. They're not going to work hard to get to where they need to be. And, he might have been saying it tongue in cheek, oh, what I would have done with the $4 million back then if I was 18. He's kidding, maybe messing around a little bit. But at the end of the day, it's such a damn solid point, man. You got to have that chip on your shoulder. And if you got $4 million in the bank account, it's tough to put a chip on your shoulder, my man.
It's very hard. And that's where you talk about mental toughness. This is probably the most important thing I could share with anybody who they've reached tremendous levels of success, or maybe they're behind where they want to be, but they've had these windows of success, or that young athlete that just got that check. They can't believe how big it is. I've had the blessing of working with some of the highest performers to ever walk the face of the earth. Hall of Famers, Super Bowl champions, NCAA champions. You see rings behind me. Like, it's been a blessing. High performers in the business world. The highest performers are not seduced by success. When they have success, they have this burning desire, this fire to go wake up and do it again the next day. Not to go make the money or to win, to repeat the work that caused them to have that feeling of victory. And you look at the Lou Holtzes and these amazing coaches. Those guys had an innate ability. I told you when we were together in Vegas, that's my favorite guy to ever hear speak. If you've never heard Lou Holtz speak, the dude is a legend.
Yeah.
But they had this uncanny ability. Like, when you won, they reconnect you back to the work. When you win, they will not allow you to be seduced by success. And there's too many people, you see it in sales. Oh, I had my best first quarter ever. And then they stop working. And then the second quarter's terrible. You average the 2 quarters and it was average, and they come to you, John, you're their leader, and say, what happened? My first quarter was, you stopped working. And so people become seduced by success. Jerry Rice, one of my favorite opportunities I ever had on the stage. We spoke in another one of these boot camps that I did back in 2006. And Jerry and I are in the green room before we take the stage. I say, Jerry, I said, man, what made you great? And rather than answering the question, he actually made one of the most profound statements ever. He said, man, you know what I've never understood? How could somebody not give 100% when it's 100% their choice?
I like it.
And I thought, that's it.
That's great.
You have a really great game and then you choose not to work. That's on you. Like, you enjoyed the feeling of having the great game, but then you're disappointed that you stopped doing the work and you don't have another great game. Just keep doing the work every day.
Yeah.
And so we all know what we need to do, but it's the discipline in order to keep doing it.
Ben, you nailed something there, man. And then this could even go into far. If you talk about team chemistry, if you could get everybody feeling that way as part of the same organization or part of the same team, gosh, sky's the limit. My freshman year at Notre Dame, we were playing against Northwestern. This was before Northwestern got good. Okay, they had sucked for decades. All right. Actually, Northwestern gave me my first scholarship offer coming out of high school, Gary Barnett. And I was looking at it like, okay, that's great, but like there was no way I was going to go there. I could go in anywhere I wanted. And okay, that's cute, Northwestern, So here we are, my first game freshman year. I'm at Notre Dame. We're 28-point favorites against Northwestern. They come out and beat us. Okay, I'm going to tell you right now, there's not one kid on that Northwestern roster that could have went to Notre Dame. There's not one kid on the Notre Dame roster that Northwestern didn't offer a scholarship to. Maybe they didn't offer some of them because they knew they weren't going to get them. Then why even bother? You know what I mean? But I arguably, is Gary Barnett a better coach than Lou Holtz? You would probably not say no. Okay. But for whatever happened on that team that year, they were all prepared. They're all playing to the best of their ability, and they all were overachievers and came together. You know what I mean? And that's the legacy of Northwestern from there on out, really to the present day. There's been a couple bad years, but they built that culture around that. Whereas, at Notre Dame, because then when I transferred 2 years later to Northwestern, I'm looking in the locker room there. I see how it is. There was no hierarchy. You got the freshman walk-on hanging out with a starting senior running back. Okay? They're sitting there eating lunch together. Shit. You go in that Notre Dame locker room, you're a freshman, walk on, don't talk. People don't even know your name. You know what I mean? So just two totally different cultural differences. And I don't know. I learned a lot from that. You talking about this right now just kind of made me recollect that a little bit.
Well, here's an interesting point. We experienced the same thing at Kansas State. It's been a blessing to have won national championships at North Dakota State with Coach Kleiman. He brings me to Kansas State. We just finished our 4th year, already kicked off the 5th year, which in college football, it never really stops. We got a few weeks off after the Sugar Bowl, and then we were rolling again. But last year, Kansas State wins the Big 12 championship. And people are like, how in the world did you guys win a Big 12 championship? You take a look pregame against Oklahoma, right?
Yep,
When we beat Oklahoma at the beginning of the year, we'd beaten them 3 times in the last 4 years. You look at the two teams, you're like, well, how's that team going to compete against this team? And we're so undersized.
Yep.
But there's this chip on this shoulder. There's this belief that you have.
Yeah.
But then once again, this goes all the way back to where we started. It's not just the chip on your shoulder. It's not just the belief. It's the manner in which these young men have decided to own the program every day and to put the work in every day.
Yeah.
And you go to some of these bigger programs where there's a lot of NIL money. They're taken care of. They've got this. They're not working as hard. They don't stack consistent days. They think that it's just going to be handed to them. And it's hard. And that's what you're alluding to. When you get a team where they strap up, they get in between those white lines and they say, we don't care what happens. We're going to fight for 60 minutes.
Yep.
And some teams just aren't prepared for that.
Yeah.
They haven't worked for that.
Yeah, you nailed it.
Let me share something really interesting with you. This will be fun I know you have so many listeners that love football and everything.
Yeah.
Here's fascinating about NIL, and you can do this later. I've done this with a few coaches. I say, okay, list off NIL. Who do you think are the top 10 programs in the country for bringing in money? And you literally go bang, 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 bang. By the time you name the top 10, okay, and then of course there's Georgia. Georgia would be way up there. They won the national championship,
Right.
won the SEC. Once you pull Georgia out, typically the remaining 9 that people choose, for sure 8, didn't even win a conference championship or a bowl game.
Really? Okay.
John, when you write it down, this will blow your mind. These are teams the teams that are winning the game of NIL, because why? It's exactly what we just said. The kids are now showing up. They're getting paid. They didn't have incentive to work back when you said it. There was this mindset, and that's the power of the mind. The power of the mind. The reason why Northwestern beat Notre Dame is because you had these players who are gritty, working every day. We're going to go play for 60 minutes. Notre Dame won't be prepared for that. Now you have these kids at these powerful schools that are getting paid so much money that they say, I'm not going to work. They can't even win a bowl game. They can't even win their conference championship, let alone compete for a national championship.
This will be, Ben might be looking into the future here. Give it 10 or 15 years. Like let's remember what you just said. Does the data support this over time? If it does, that's going to be eye-opening, my man.
John, look at this NCAA tournament, okay?
Yeah.
Who in the hell would have picked this Final Four for this NCAA tournament?
Right, true.
Not only was there not a number 1 seed, the highest seed in the Final Four was a 5 seed. If I would have told you in our lifetimes, John, we will see an NCAA tournament, a Final Four, where the highest seed or the lowest seed is going to be a 5, you'd be like, dude, take me to Vegas right now. Take me to the Mirage, and if you don't follow this guy close enough, you know why I just said the Mirage.
Don't go to the frickin' Mirage.
Take me to Vegas. You would have said, I will bet any amount of money, Ben, that tournament will never happen.
Yeah.
Why does Florida Atlantic? Because you have hungry kids at Florida Atlantic. They're not getting NIL money. Two of the Final Four teams were sponsored by Adidas. They're not even getting the Jordan brand or the Nike contracts.
Wow.
Let alone NIL money.
That's true.
And so these teams that are hungry are the ones that are competing, and you're going to see it, John. It's fascinating to watch.
Yep. And you know what? I'm going to do a shameless plug here. One of my venture capital investments, early stage, is a company called Matchpoint that Zach Oliver, a former quarterback at Northwestern, put together. He's matching companies with athletes like through an app, and it's kind of cool. Yeah. So it's not like, it's really more for the local guys, the local car dealership or the local restaurant. Okay, what are they just going to freaking call Northwestern or call University of Illinois? No. You go through Matchpoint, you find the kids, and they have all profiles. It's pretty cool deal. Any good, like before we wrap up here, Ben, if you're anything like me, man, see, you're a little bit older when you were already working closely with Saban and everything. I look back now at where me and you are about the same age. It's like, wow, man, Lou Holtz. This Lou Holtz thing has got a lot of freaking mileage. You know what I mean? Like if it wasn't, I think I just had my head down to the ground ever since I got out of college, and I wanted to do so much more. And it's like ever since I got into my 40s, it's like this Lou Holtz thing comes up quite a freaking bit, man. And you got to work so closely with Nick Saban. I mean, any good motivational one-liners or experiences that you could share that would kind of put a smile on our face?
I'll actually, if I could, I want to honor the 3 head coaches that I've worked with close enough, because I've been blessed in college football. I mean, there's so many people you see guys, and they'll speak to so many different teams. I've really been blessed over the last 10 years. I went in so deep in relationship with North Dakota State, then Alabama, Kansas State, Michigan State. Yes, I've spoken to other teams, but I'm on the sideline for their games. You can only do this for so many. And so I want to honor all 3 because I think these are all powerful. Yeah. Number 1, Coach Saban, if you were to come to a practice, back in the day, you'd hear him say probably 2 of my favorite things. The way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And we don't do things until we get them right. We do things until we can't get them wrong.
Okay, I like it.
At Kansas State, you always hear Coach Kleiman say, find your edge in the details. Most people aren't willing to slow down enough with intentional focus to find the detail that provides the edge that causes them to win. And then Coach Tucker, last year, I'll never forget this, up at Michigan State, we spent the whole afternoon, we were talking about, you can't just say standard, you have to unpack it, you have to understand it, what does it mean? And the next day I walked back into his office and he goes, I've been waiting to tell you this. You know what the opposite of standard is? I said, what's that, Coach Tucker? He said, unacceptable.
I got to tell you, Hey, man, I like all three, but the coach I'm least familiar with out of this, the Edge one, I think is the one I like the most out of those three. All three are powerful, though.
Well, I'll tell you, Coach Kleiman, a lot of people don't realize this. You know, he and Saban are the two winningest college football coaches over the last 15 years in terms of win percentage.
Okay.
You know, all the national championships that he won at Kansas State. So I'm not surprised by his continued success because he's been building relationships with these players for so long. And that's what causes the players to take ownership of the program. And then it's just a blessing for me to get lucky to have great relationships with these young men. And I'm the one who ends up walking away inspired when you see them up against all odds, and then they go and do things that are amazing. We're the ones who walk away going, man, it's going to cause me to work harder in my life.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. You know, and that's an interesting stat on Kansas State too. I got to tell you, being in Chicago, Kansas State kind of flies under the radar screen. No, they're not on TV much here. You got to kind of pay attention. For whatever reason, KU is. People pay attention to KU. I don't know why. Kids out here go to school there sometimes, and you know, but Kansas State kind of flies under that radar screen. That's so cool, man, that you just did that. I have good Gary Barnett stories, good Randy Walker stories, and good Lou Holtz stories. I was blessed to play for all three. Played for Bob Davie briefly before I transferred out of Notre Dame during he was our head coach during spring ball. But I like how you categorize that a lot. So Ben, tell everyone you guys got to follow Ben on Instagram. Tell him your Instagram, please, Ben.
It's at continued fight. At continued fight.
Yeah, you get motivation from that every day. And Ben tells it like it is on there with some great posts. And how else?
I appreciate it.
Yeah, how else to reach you, my man?
BenNewmanCoaching.com or BenNewman.net are probably two sites that will provide a lot of context with no cost. I mean, you want videos or things that can help, because I want to help all those individuals who are just getting started. And, just to show you that I put words behind that or action behind that. It's not just the words, just the connection that we've had, John. I'd like to offer something to your listeners. If everybody goes to freeplaybook.net, you can actually get a free copy. It sells on Amazon for $19.99, but you can get a free copy of your mental toughness playbook. The ebook version, we'll email it to you. Those are the 6 mental training tools that I use to help people build a foundation for what it means to create that standard in attack. It's what I use in my coaching with NFL players, businesses. And so I want you all to have it, because I can't come on here, have this vein pop out of my neck, have John and I challenge you the way that we did, but then not give you something that if you choose to take it is going to help you get off that fence of indecision and start attacking your life.
Love that, Ben. And I also want to just give you props too. Again, we have a business and entrepreneurial audience here, right? And guys, for those that don't know, Ben's been doing this for 17 years. It is very difficult to have a sustainable business in this kind of a field and actually be able to pay your bills. Okay, I made the reference to the dad from Little Miss Sunshine earlier, kind of tongue in cheek. But if you think anyone's getting rich off of just selling a book, you're wrong. Believe me, I want everyone to go buy my 2000% raise. It's probably going to be out by the time this airs. 2000%raise.com is my book. But you think anyone's getting rich just selling the book? You're dead wrong, unless you're the woman that wrote Harry Potter, you know what I mean? Or it's the Joe Biden biography or some shit like that. It's the community and all the ancillary things that a guy like Ben has been doing around him. And I'm assuming you do a hell of a lot of keynote speaking, Ben. Do you find that as one of your?
I'll tell you what, it's been a hell of a ride, from $500 to my first speech, which once again, I got lucky because then I would get like coffee cups, and then you come home and tell your wife, hey, we're going to build this speaking company and you got a coffee cup. That doesn't exactly pay the bills. It's been a blessing that, whether it's coaching or events or keynote speaking, the company really does all of it. And it's been a huge blessing. And I feel like we're just scratching the surface because, like I said, I've got these mentors and coaches who are doing so much more than me that I always feel like I'm just scratching the surface, which keeps me uncomfortable. It keeps me hungry, and it keeps me attacking.
Well, and that's one of the things I like about you, Ben, too. You're actually coaching regular people in the business field, people in the athletic field, and you're not coaching people to become business coaches. That's great if they want to become business coaches. But what I'm seeing a lot of right now out there is business coaches coaching people how to start a business, coaching business. And that's definitely not what you're doing. So I appreciate that. Just an observation too on something I've been.
Well, I'll tell you this Vegas boot camp that we have, we actually take people behind the scenes. And once again, it's not to impress anybody, it's to impress upon the point. We take people behind this. Well, first off, the whole boot camp is for people from all different walks of life. They come and there's 3 days. It's holistic. We attack every area of your life. But then there's an extra day. And I used to do this in St. Louis. Now we're doing it in Vegas, to where I actually teach all the behind the scenes. Here's what we did. Here are the mistakes I made. Here's how you take your speaking and coaching practice to the next level. But it's at a price point, John, where like, if you have not been successful in this business, you can't afford it.
Okay.
And not that I don't want to help those individuals, but it is priced in such a way that like, I want to help those people that are actually doing this for the right reasons. They've gone and done those free talks. They've built a business. There's other areas we can help those newer coaches, but I think it's important that people aren't just caught up in, well, this person who's never even coached and been a speaker, they just went and learned this. I mean, there's a right way of doing things with integrity for the right reasons and a willingness to help everybody.
Yeah. And would you say anyone trying to get into this kind of thing as their livelihood, where, you know, if from a financial standpoint, that speaking almost has to be part of the formula? Am I right on that?
Speaking has to be part of the formula. I mean, like you joked about it. One of my mentors, John Gordon, is one of the top authors to ever walk the face of the earth. He makes plenty of money speaking, writing, all of it. He makes enough just in selling books.
Yeah.
I'm currently writing my 8th book, and all of those books combined doesn't generate enough revenue to do the things that I like to do on a monthly basis for my family.
Yeah.
So, writing books is hard, but it's the speaking and it's the coaching, and it's really all of it put together. And look, we've had Wall Street Journal bestsellers, so I joke they've been successful.
Yeah.
But the point is, you have to have a business that hits multifaceted areas, not just one.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Great advice. Great advice, man. All right. We end it with one thing, Ben. We end it with one thing. Now, it doesn't have to be anything that we've talked about. All right. Ben Newman recommends what movie to the 2000% Raise audience?
Goodfellas.
Okay, dude. Wait. Do I even have I have a Goodfellas? I don't have a Goodfellas poster behind me. There's one right outside my door. I'm not going to turn my camera around. Goodfellas. It does not get any better than that. Enough said. Thank you, Ben Newman, for joining 2000% Raise.
Thank you, brother.
And that wraps up another episode of 2000% Raise. Thank you for listening. The best way to support our show is by leaving a rating or review on all platforms you listened on. And of course, by following, liking, or subscribing. Visit us at 2000percentraise.com or at John Cerasani on TikTok and Instagram. And of course, my YouTube channel at John Cerasani's 2000% Raise. Find all the ways to follow today's guests in our show notes. Thank you for being a part of our entrepreneurial journey.